YouTube, what's up? It's Adam Dumont from Get Ahead Financing. Thank you for coming along with me today. We are driving around because, again, my house is full of kids and I can't go to work because of this pandemic, but I want to get you some info. I want to talk about a guy named Brad. Brad may just be like you. He was working on getting his credit. He got a couple credit cards, bought some things, paid it down, built up his credit. 23 years old, just out of college for about a year and a half, and has been working ever since as an electrician. Good young guy, single, and wants to get in the real estate game. I bumped into him at an open house a while ago, and him and I were looking for houses. This is about a year and a half ago. Anyway, so we're searching for houses. He's doing his homework. I'm educating him as much as possible. He finally saves up his 5% down payment, which is roughly around between, I think it was around 11 grand. He was looking at, his budget was between 200 and 230 to purchase a home. So we saw a home for $220,000. It was been on the market for about 30 days, needed a little bit of work. It was dated, but what I really liked about it was the fact that there could be like a suite down in the basement. So I talked to Brad, talked him into it really. I said, Brad, this is what you should do. Your first house, if you buy this one and do it right, you're gonna come out of it hitting home runs all the way around. And I explained to him what I'm about to explain to you. So if you got a little bit of time and a little bit of energy, stick along, get a pad of paper, let's do this. So this home I was looking at with this Brad guy was pretty close to a major road in my little town, close to the college. So I said, Brad, hear me out. What if we buy this house, you renovate the basement a little bit, get a suite down there and rent it out to a student. They'll pay between $450 and $550 for a nice little room, and they could pay a good chunk of your mortgage. I left that with Brad, and then he came back to me and said, you know what, I really like that idea, but I'm thinking, what if I lived in the basement and the students lived upstairs? So we throw our offer in on this property. Remember, it was asking 220 grand. We came in at basically 210 grand, and the offer was accepted right away. We did go kind of back and forth regarding a closing date or possession date. We wanted longer so that Brad had a little bit more time to save up some money and get some contractors lined up to do some of the work in the basement. And also it lined up more with the school year, the college school year. Okay, so the offer was accepted. We put in a condition of financing and a condition of home inspection. We want to make sure that the home's in good shape. And we wanted to get a contractor in there to kind of give Brad a little estimate on maybe some of the work he wanted to finish in the basement. So we go through that process, and the general contractor was saying about 5 grand to finish the bathroom down in the basement. And Brad was like, oh, that's a little more than I wanted to spend. Plus, he still wanted to fix up some of the flooring and stuff like that down there. So what we did was we amended the offer. We went back to the seller and said, look, we're happy with this deal. We're willing to close at the 60 days that you want. We would like the ability to advertise this house for rent over those 60 days, as well as reduce the price from 210 to 205 because we wanted to do some work to the house, and it turns out it's a lot more money than what we had thought. The seller agreed right away, no problem, said, yep, that's a good deal, we want out. So we removed our condition, the home is sold, and we now have 60 days to get things lined up for Brad as far as contractors go, as well as maybe find him some tenants. See, the trick here was he doesn't own the house yet. He's got 60 days until he has to start making payments on this property. And the trick was, can we find tenants before he moves in? And can we get things moving as quickly as possible regarding the contractor? The goal was to try to add some value right away. So if we had some tenants already willing to go into that house before we even started, or before Brad started making payments on it, then he's already cash flowing immediately day one. So He threw out his ad out there on Kijiji, which is the main place to look for tenants in my area. He ended up finding 2 tenants relatively quickly. Actually, there was about 6 students that would have rented it. He ended up picking 2 that were a little older. Kind of, I guess he looked at them like they were more his kind of compatibility. So, you know, drink beers and like sports, that kind of stuff. So anyway, okay, so 2 students willing to pay $500 plus their proportionate amount of utilities worked out great for Brad. Brad's mortgage was about $752 plus his property tax and insurance came to another $240 a month. So that left him with $992 of carrying costs a month. So if you think about it, you have 2 student renters renting from you at $500 each or $1,000 a month. So Brad is essentially making $8 a month. Now, that's positive cash flow, yes, but it's not really what we're after. But the best part is these guys are basically paying for Brad's house and he's living for free. So again, creating that value of now Brad's work, his paycheck, he can save, you know, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% of his paycheck versus 10% of what he could afford before while he was paying rent. So these are the thoughts that you need to go through your mind when you're thinking about buying your first house. Brad was just a textbook client, understood exactly what we were trying to do, and it worked out absolutely perfectly for him. So let me fill you in on what happened after that. So during the 60 days that Brad was waiting for the property to close and him move in, he ended up getting the first and last month's rent from each of the students. So that is $1,000 each, there's $2,000 there. He ended up saving a little bit more money, plus the money that he didn't use of his total down payment money. Because remember, he had enough money to buy a house for up to $220,000. He ended up only needing enough for a $205,000 purchase. So he added another $1,500 or so. So there's $3,500. He needed another $1,500 or so to pay the contractor for the bathroom down at the basement. So he put down the $3,500 to the contractor once he got it, and the contractor was able to help him out and say, look, if you could do the electrical, you could save yourself about $1,000. And they kind of came to a handshake agreement there. So Brad could do his own electrical in the bathroom. It worked out really, really nicely. So that's what Brad did. They ended up handshaking and saving a little bit of money. So instead of what was it? I think $5,000 to do the whole bathroom reno. The contractor charged him $4,500. So he saved a little bit of money there. So everything was covered with the first and last month's rent, plus the savings of over the 60 days that he was waiting to close the property, plus the money he didn't use of his down payment money. So Brad's going to move into a house, and the contractor's going to start right away, and the tenants are going to move in right away. And Brad just has to find some way to use the bathroom upstairs for maybe about a month, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. And that's exactly what happened. Brad really liked his tenants. They were awesome guys from out of town. So closing day happens. Brad moves into his house. He's really excited. Tenants move in. They're actually pretty cool guys. I met them and brought over a couple cases of beer for them and wish them well. Obviously, I stay in touch with all my clients, and over the year, I messaged Brad a couple times, see how he's doing. He absolutely loves it. Doesn't even really feel like he's living in a basement. Doesn't feel cramped at all. Young guy saving a little bit more money than he usually does. He was telling me he saves between $300 and $400 a month now, which is incredible. So he's really excited because he wants to do this again, which excites me because obviously I get paid commissions every time he buys and sells houses. So that's exciting. And then he told me his tenants will be moving out at the end of the school year, which I was actually excited about. And this is one of the best reasons I like renting to students is they leave. And when they leave, you can reset your rents. And the couple of rentals that I have, one of them's a student rental, and I charge $525 a room, and I didn't get an objection whatsoever. So I told Brad, I was like, why don't you jack those up another 25, 35 bucks for the following year? And he couldn't be happier. He's gonna stay in the basement at least another year, rent it out to 2 more students at $525 a month each. And then the other thing I helped him out with was to call his bank and set him up for a home line of credit against his property. So there's been a few houses that have sold in that area, 240, 250, 280, all similar. Some have garages, some don't. Some are more finished, some have pools, some don't. But anyway, so we got him set up to have a home appraiser go through his property, and would you believe it, his home was valued at $265,000 after he did a little bit of work outside, curb appeal type of stuff, just took care of the yard. It was an old person house and it needed to be manicured a little bit, so that's just time and effort. The bathroom added quite a bit of value down in the basement. While he was down there, he ended up doing some stuff, cleaning up his own panel box with a friend of his, and then put some new flooring down there. So the basement looks like a awesome little bachelor pad. So his value is $265,000. So let me show you how Brad could tap into that money without selling his house. Okay, so here, let me show you how Brad really hit a couple of home runs here. So first off, we can see here, Brad, the new value of his house is $265,000. Now this LTV is loan to value. So when you're applying for a home equity line of credit, banks normally don't lend more than 80% of the appraised value of the home. So that's what that 80% LTV stands for. So 80% times 265 equals $212,000 of potential lending capacity that the banks would lend to him. But he also has a mortgage. Now, remember, his mortgage was $194,000. His original mortgage was $194,750, but he's paid it down over the year, or the tenants have paid it down over the year, and so he only owes $193,000 left on the property. So the difference of that is the amount of money the banks will give you against your home. So 112 minus 193 equals $19,000. So in 1 year, Brad has made $19,000 in home equity line of credit availability to him immediately. He can take that out. He can go on a vacation if he wants. Don't recommend doing that. He can buy a car if he wants. Don't recommend doing that. It is like a forced savings account. If you really want generational wealth, you just let that sit there and wait for your next opportunity. So apply for it, make sure you can get it, and then once you do have the ability for it, to use it to buy another asset. So let's go through right here. So these guys, the two tenants are basically paying down the property here, but he's cash flowing $8 a month. It doesn't seem like much, right? But he's essentially living for free, and these two other guys are paying down his mortgage. The principal pay down ended up being around $1,700 or $1,750 for the year, which is, you pay more interest than you do on your principal at the beginning of your mortgage payment. Your principal pay down becomes exponentially faster every year you go. So this amount might be $1,900 next year, or somewhere in that ballpark. So expect future principal pay downs to be more than this for him. This is just his first year. The true equity that's in the home, remember, the appraiser came in at $265,000, and he should be able to get that in this market if he decides to sell. So the true equity he has is $72,000 in the home. So within a year, renting it down, all that stuff, absolutely huge home run for him. And obviously the home equity line of credit, or the HELOC, is $19,000. So it is just, you know, this $8 I guess isn't really a home run, but when you have other people pay down your principal by $1,750, that's a home run. You got the value of the property. So he bought well, he bought under value, he put a little bit of work into it, and it's now worth quite a bit more than what he bought it for, plus the home equity line of credit now made available to him. So this is the first step for Brad to really get things going. The next step is, again, probably really geared through discipline. I'm going to tell Brad, please don't touch that unless you're going to pay down some debt, like credit card debt or something like that. Just leave that and wait for my phone call to sell you another rental property, because we're going to need 20% the next time he wants to buy a rental property, not 5%. So that's why it's so important. If you can get your first house, there's so much value for you to buy your first property. The incentives that are out there are just incredible. No land transfer tax, and you can use your retirement savings without being taxed. And there's just so many incentives. Some banks are giving you free credit cards and all these things. So First-time home buyers out there, they want you to buy a home. It's a great investment, but how can you leverage that investment to becoming a rental property as well? So anyway, guys, that's it for the video today. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Otherwise, I will see you at the next video. Take care.